Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How are we doing today?
Wild day,
Was it?
wild Wednesday for sure in the markets. Ton of opportunity. Doing pretty good though. Doing pretty good. How are you doing, Coach?
Good. I just remember someone in the chat saying FOMC doesn't matter anymore except when it does. It made a difference today. Good call, whoever that was.
Yeah, ton of volatility, ton of two-sided opportunity in the markets today. Hopefully, you were able to take advantage of it. I know for myself, I was able to get short in the S&P around 69.12. We were talking about it during the fast market segment. We'll talk about that trade in just a little bit. Welcome to At the Buzzer, everyone. Our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. You guys know me at this point. That's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and some knowledge and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let us know how you guys did it today. Were you up on the day, down on the day, anything that you learned from the day? For Top Step accounts here, for myself, I'm still looking and working with the risk team and the live funded account team on getting that account set up. So not too much trading here, but again, I did have a decent trade short the S&P a little bit later in the day. Pie trade saying Power Hour really delivered after a not so great PA session. I agree. I don't know. I thought that open, man, was after that first half an hour, I thought it was pretty clean. We'll take a look though. It wasn't the easiest trade in the morning. We'll say it that way, but was a decent trade. We do have some earnings coming out here in just a minute. Shout out to my guy Jack. Keeps us up to date on Carvana. Carvana, I think it just tanked. Carvana closed the session. We'll see if we can get a chart up here. See pie trades. The open was great, but you were sleeping. Whose fault is that? Is that the market's fault? Is that your fault? But no, glad you were able to catch some of the power hour move because it was a pretty nice move there. Coach Paul, you got your hard hat on?
Do I have my hard hat on?
Watch out. Carvana's gonna hit you in the head here.
I got run over by a Carvana. Where's a Carvana?
Carvana. 355. Closed at 355. $355.60. Trading at 286.93. Let's see the numbers here for Carvana. And I don't know many. Actually, that's not true. I got a Carvana story here. My friend just sold his car, bought a new car, and sold his car to Carvana. And he says the guy comes over and I guess they have to assess your car before they pick it up or whatever, and determine exactly how much they're going to give you. And he, yeah, I guess he had like a small dent in his car. He had a Range Rover he was turning in, and he had a small dent in the car. And the guy's just like, hey, well, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to dock you for this. And it was like a couple $1,000s that he was quoting to dock him for it. And this is just times that we're in 2026, right? You sell your car, somebody comes and picks it up. So what my friend does, he is a very strong advocate for the use of AI. So he takes out his phone and he takes a picture of the dent in his car and he asked ChatGPT, how much should this cost me to fix? And they said, really wanted to, if you had the tools in your garage, you could fix it yourself. So he shows it to the Carvana guy and he says, you're either going to give me what you originally quoted me or you're not taking the car and I'm going to sell it myself. And then they gave him his normal price. So the normal price that they quoted. So
that was a classic case of bid, offer, size.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Setting the market there. Yeah, and shout out to anyone who works for Carvana. I've heard some stories as well. But when you try to lowball somebody, doesn't always go great. But I don't see the numbers out yet. But we do see action. eBay reported their earnings as well. Earnings per share came in at $1.41. Estimates were $1.35. Revenues came in at $2.97 billion. Estimate was 2.87 billion. I haven't looked at an eBay chart in a very long time. There you go with eBay. Little spike to the upside there. Our Carvana was the big one. We'll keep that in mind. Again, Jack has a trade that he'll update us on probably sometime tomorrow. I'm just looking at this chart, Coach Paul. Look at this. Look at this daily. This is a 200 moving average there on the daily in Carvana, where we rejected.
Yeah. Well, what's the volume? Well, we can't see because I'm in the way.
Pretty light. Pretty light.
So once again, it almost looks like a buy to me on light volume this break. But
Yeah. And
what's
then you
that
got
white line?
that white line is the 200 moving average. That's where we closed the day, but now we're trading $70 lower than that right now. So really nice rejection. It works pretty much anywhere. Apply the technicals anywhere. All right. We'll wait, Carvana earnings per share $4.22 versus $1.14 estimate. Where are you seeing that? Do we actually get it? Not seeing it just yet.
Well, the S&P is barely budged.
Yeah.
So,
We'll take a look. I'll confirm those numbers, but we'll take a look at the get back to futures here. That is what we trade. Take a look. Was there any news that we had to look out for today? As far as economic numbers go, we did have a durable goods number come in this morning, negative 1.4%. Forecast was negative 2%. Housing starts came in at 1.404 million. Forecast was 1.304 million, a little bit higher than expected. Industrial production came in at 0.7%. Forecast was 0.4%. Then we did get those Fed minutes as well. We do have some more numbers later in the week. Tomorrow we got a trade balance number, initial jobless claims as well. Crude oil inventories, shout out to crude oil, really nice trade today. And PCE on Friday. Also the potential Supreme Court opinion on tariffs Friday. So if you didn't get enough volatility this week, there is more coming. There is more coming for sure. Anything you got on the news, Coach Paul?
yeah, last night we had a nice rally, and there was some PPI numbers, CPI numbers coming out of Great Britain and France, which were positive. That helped that rally last night. So overall, that was a good indication. And outside of the United States, inflation is easing. But what once again, what's the next number that's going to create some more volatility?
There's always something. There's always something. PCE Friday, again, potential Supreme Court decision. NVIDIA earnings next week. No blank pages in the newspaper. So let's take a look at the markets that we have to trade here at Topstep. 36 different markets today to the downside. We had New Zealand dollar. That's an interesting one. We don't normally see that in the biggest percentage movers, down 1.4% on the day. Micro Bitcoin down 2.14% on the day, and Micro Ethereum, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 2.63%. To the upside, we had crude oil up 4.71%. Continue to move actually in crude oil here. Shout out to whoever said 2026 had the potential to be a great year of trading for crude. Silver.
Cheers.
Silver up 4.98%, and heating oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 5.68%. To talk about our big four, we already mentioned crude up 4.72%, the S&P up 0.44%, gold up 1.99%, just under 2% there in gold, and the NASDAQ, to round out our big four, up 0.67% on the day. Let's take a look at that New Zealand dollar. You said there was some numbers that came out. Was one of those numbers in New Zealand, Coach Paul, last night?
No. But the dollar rallied today against most of the currencies.
Yeah.
New Zealand was that the Kiwi. Got hit the most, obviously.
Right.
But the dollar rallied. The yen got hit. The euro currency, Canadian, Australian.
Yeah, the yen's down a
So
percent as well. There you go. Dollar strength, a little bit of weakness in the other currency markets that we see here against the dollar. Let's take a look though at the equities on a higher time frame chart. We always go with the Nasdaq first. Let's go to the S&P. Let's take a look at the S&P on a daily. What are we seeing here, Coach Paul?
rotation.
Yep.
Um,
Still.
uh, in, indecisiveness. And we're still underneath the 20 and the 50. But what candle is that you framed out, Coach?
October 10th.
October 10th, the famous day.
Yeah.
And we're now about what 3 months, almost 4 months past that, and we're still holding it. Uh, I look at that at those this last 4 days, this last week, and I wouldn't envision this tight of ranges. How
Yeah.
about you? I just so it's rotating in a range, um, and right here it's very indecisive.
Extremely indecisive here. A lot of rotation. Still opportunity though. Still opportunity. Daily ATR staying above 90 points. 91, 92 points in the S&P, and today high to low range we had a 75-point range. So there is opportunity in it. We'll take a look at the 30-minute chart here. What is that white line? We talked about this during fast markets, but if we start to see some buying above that, we could get a pretty interesting opportunity here. Here's last night's open. We opened right at the high of that October 10th candle, and catch a VWAP there. Kind of gives you the puzzle for the day. Last night we tried to sell early. Maybe some price acceptance back inside that October 10th candle. We can see price tried to trade lower. Volume really never left that range to the downside, and we kind of float back up. Decent trade here in the overnight session. Go ahead, Coach Paul.
Now, one of the things that session VWAP stayed within that opening half hour.
Yep.
As as we start, if we look at the price of that session VWAP, it also stayed in, but it starts ticking up as we hold that low.
Yeah.
That low was also the pivot of the day,
Nice.
and when that curled, it really didn't. It held it till Europe. That was a nice trade.
Yeah.
Um, through the 200 moving average, but we can't just go through it and rally, do we?
Never makes it easy. Never makes it easy. One of the things we've talked about doing is, finding the candle that trades through it or to it and attaching a VWAP from there. And the second half of the day was kind of messy, right? This is a pretty clean trade here. Pie Trades was saying there was some messy price action throughout the New York session. There was, right? And even this dip below the 200 moving average, this is a pretty aggressive move. This is, 12 points in the S&P, which is a way more favorable market to trade than the NASDAQ. But, there's no guarantee that we're going to hold above here. I think what I really like, just looking at this picture, I wasn't trading much on fast markets, but talking to Dakota and Jack, is if we're going to sustain volume above this 200 moving average, then I'm looking for opportunities to potentially buy this. Now, that first 15 minutes or so, we did make the low. That's that 200 moving average there. If you're confused and you see me using a 2000 moving average on this chart, it's because I want to take a look at where that 200 moving average is on the 30-minute on a 3-minute chart, right? So just a little bit of math there. But here we go with the session open. It set the low, Coach Paul.
Yes, it did. We got urgency.
Yes, we
We
did.
and it took about what 15 minutes? I don't know, about the first half an hour. I'm sorry. But interesting again, watch the session VWAP with the VWAP from the opening range. It built, didn't go beneath it. It closed above session VWAP and ignite the rocket. That was a one-way trade for about an hour.
Yeah. Really nice one-way trade there. And then shout out to Jack. Shout out to Jack who looks at some of the options data and he kept saying today, VIX expiration, we could have some interesting price action. Whatever he saw up here, 69.15, which kind of lines up with 6,900 at the SPX level. Again, the futures ES that we trade is a derivative of the SPX. Uh, Whatever he saw up there, and of course, everything is a zone. It is not a definitive level. Whatever Jack saw up here, thanks, Jack. That got me short the S&P later in the day. One of the things we talked about during fast markets was the the momentum of the market kind of dying out. Right, that first once we picked a direction, we rallied pretty much in one direction, Coach Ball, for a half an hour, and then we get to this 69.15 level, and to me, this is a tough trade to take because you're seeing the price action that you want to see if you're going to short here. In my opinion, right, we're seeing the market slow down. The difficult part of this trade is what happens with the volume when we get up there. And if I'm a volume trader and I understand that it's going to take higher volume for the markets to move, taking this trade to me is a tough one because price wise, I have a level that I want to trade from. I don't know the timing of the trade. And more often than not, it's going to be later in the day, right? We had a couple of things. We had to wait for the uh, Fed minutes to come out, getting options expiration, which happens at the end of the day. So this 4 hour period in the middle of the day, I'll be honest, as a trader, for me personally, this is where I struggle the most because I know I want to do something here, but I have to be patient and wait for the market to start to confirm that thing.
Well, another way to watch that with internal data is to go to the half an hour and use the volume profile. This is very interesting because it lines up with the what Jack was talking about with options. We start from last night and we can watch that point of control.
Starting from last night, give me 1 minute here.
Yeah, on the half hour.
Yep.
All
Got
right.
it up here. You got that point of control flip up there.
All right. Oh, I usually do it the other way.
Yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it.
All right. Now, watch where we accepted the point of control. Why does that look different than mine? I had the point of control at
I'm looking at the
25.81.
S&P here, Coach Paul.
All right. S&P, same thing. When we accepted that range with volume, we broke down.
Yeah.
So that area, if you're long from the open and it hasn't reached your target, it did with me. Once it flipped higher, and then one other thing is if you want to be stubborn, when it closed below that point of control, what happened? It was a flush.
Yeah.
So in that area, we had a nice rally. I actually had in the S&P my target first level of resistance was 69.40.
Okay.
All right. And then when that point of control flipped higher, and right there, what do we know? That buyers and sellers have met, and it's created a balance, a point of control. So as soon as it closes below that, I'm out. I'm I'm not hanging around.
Out of the longs.
Out of the longs. I necessarily don't want to get short it. You can. I don't, but I was long. I don't like to flip right away. But the key point here is recognizing when the market finds balance. A point of control is a balance. So it took all the volume, and this happened while it was away from VWAP. If we put VWAP up there, session VWAP, it's extended away from VWAP, all right, and it's finding control on a volume basis. That's internal information. As we talk about, you get fragmented information. Up till that time, we had a rally.
Yep.
So it was met with what? Selling. There was balance. So it's another thing to watch.
Hmm.
I watch it all day. So it didn't reach my goal of, excuse me, the second level resistance, 69.40. But once again, new information came. It accepted this level on a volume level. We found balance. So I use this every day now. Really helps plot out uh, the, the market organics based on price and time.
Sure. We got a question in the chat here from Drayson Agency. Why don't you add settle prior day close to your chart? Very important besides a few indicators. Probably one of the biggest things to have on your chart, previous day's close. Got you, my friend. Here's my quant tower setup. I'm gonna show you this first. And I do use those levels. You can see settlement, the low of the day, prior day high, high a day. We got a prior day low in there somewhere. It's all there. Yeah, reference levels to look at for sure. Don't see someone use it, that's okay as well. But you can also get those levels on the top step levels indicator. You are using Top Step X. You have yesterday's low. You have value area lows. We were just talking about, volume profile. Uh, have weekly kickoff highs and lows, which are Hoag's levels. We have settlement prices there as well. Can use those levels if they are relevant in your trading. They're relevant in mine. We can see where the S&P held settlement price as well. Do I make decisions solely off of settlement price? I don't, but it is another horizontal reference level that I think is important. Above settlement, the market's green. Below settlement, the market's red. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, if those are levels that you use that top step levels indicator. You can see the NASDAQ as well responding to settlement. Really nice trade opportunity from there. Shout out to that top step levels indicator. What software was that? That was Quantower that I was showing. It's where I trade my personal account. It's where you can trade your Top Step X accounts there as well. Connect to your Top Step X account to Quantower. This is what I do because I am usually trading multiple accounts at the same time. So being able to execute it all in one place. But Top Step X has those levels on there for you. And a really nice settlement bounce. Shout out to Dakota. He didn't hold the trade. He was a little upset. He kind of FOMO'd when he saw the result of the trade after it played out. But a really nice bounce off a settlement. He got in long in the NASDAQ. 24,781 was his first trade. It was like the first 45 seconds into the market being open, and seeing that settlement bounce there. You can see it here. That 3-minute candle, that again, the first 15 to 20 minutes of the market open, it was not very definitive, right? We've seen cleaner moves off that open, but that 3-minute candle did set the low, Coach Paul. Volume never traded below settlement. It just took a little while to kind of straighten out. And I think what's important there is and I have to remind myself of this in my trading as well, if it's not immediately a definitive trade, if I take a couple and I take them for scratch, then I have to slow myself down, right? Because then we start to think, well, if it's not going up, then it has to go down, and the market just hasn't picked a direction yet, right? And it's okay to be a little bit patient. If we look and wait for a candle close outside this 3-minute range, I'm not going to count this one. It closed a couple ticks above that high. Here's one here, but then again, at that candle close, where's volume? It's still in the range, right? 40 points lower. So, you can wait for the market to, and I understand it's hard, right? Especially, maybe you didn't trade in the overnight session. The market's open. It's like a horse race, right? Once the gates open, you want to just go, and you got to slow down a little bit
Well, another
sometimes.
thing on that, look at this. That is the opening. Look at the size of the selling. That was a selling candle
Yeah.
on heavy volume, which didn't make new lows.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
why
it's a J trade.
that's a J trade and massive selling. It didn't change. It held. That's why. But the risk is still this: if you buy the breakout, you have to be willing to to take risk to new low. Um, that, anything inside of that, yeah, you can take it, but that is the true risk. Think about it. All that selling and it held, and then it broke out. That's why, and then we had once again the session VWAP right there. And we closed above both of those. That's the signal. Um, so and look at how
All,
that rallied. It was just there was nothing but buying.
all that selling was really failed. And you say nothing but buying, Coach Paul. I'm looking at, and Neil said, could you break down your strat, or do you have multiple confluences? I do. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit more. I try not to bring in other platforms too much, even though some of the information that we use, we do talk about on Topstep TV. Coach Paul, that first 3 minute handle was all positive delta,
Yeah.
positive 1700. So it looked like it was selling, but they met some buyers pretty aggressively there. And
So
whether
they met standing buyers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
and
met some
that's
aggressive
laying
buyers
in the
there
weeds.
for sure, or some short covering where hey, it's not going lower. Interesting that it happened right at settlement price. We'll take a quick look at the Dow, uh, even a more aggressive example of it, selling below that 200 moving average. The Dow is
It's a different animal.
yes, it is. It is always the most aggressive market out of the out of the gates. Um, Very similar trade here in the Dow though. Two-sided trade again. There was opportunity on both sides. Had that 4 hour consolidation here as well. Does anyone like trading in this consolidation in the chat? Let us know. For me personally, I took my dog to the groomer, did a little bit of shopping, and said I don't want to get chopped up in this because uh, anytime I see this personally, I'll make 100 decisions and all of them will be wrong. But does anyone like this price action up here? Because if you do, you could wait for that as well. Right? We got up to these highs in all the equity markets and consolidated. We'll take a look at the Russell as well. The Russell was probably the strongest
Well,
on the open.
that was a
Beautiful
beauty.
trade.
And look at that. I mean, that's a 3 minute chart
Yeah,
on the opening. I, I don't know how that. And maybe they weren't ready, or they were just waiting for some selling.
yeah.
What was it? Could you? What was the delta? I'd be curious on that open.
In the
You know?
Russell,
Yeah.
let me pull it up. It'll take a minute for the data to load, but I can pull it up for you. Uh, Man, there was some interesting stuff
Okay.
going on there. It'll load in just a minute, but really nice move here, and love how they do this. It's not- like, come on, what is this? What are we doing here?
It's not an accident.
It is not an accident. Delta in the Russell first minute was negative 394. After that, negative 101, and then negative 231. So negative about 700 on that first 3 minute candle. If you sell something and it doesn't go lower, what do you got to do?
Get out or hold it and
Right.
suffer a lot of anxiety.
Sure.
Um, yeah, that was a very interesting because that was again Dow and the Russell were different than the other markets. Once again,
Been the case.
yeah, it
Been the
is.
case. So Zach has a question. Where do you see that prices rising without volume? The bars are usually the same looking almost, other than the obvious volume spike. So where were we talking about? Let's go back to the NASDAQ for a second here. On the 3 minute. You see, look at and this is a consistent volume pattern, right? Today wasn't any different than it normally is. When do we normally see the most volume? That first hour of the trading day and the last hour of the trading day, right? We're always going to get that kind of bell curve of volume. But when we're pushing up and get to a level of resistance, 25,100 in this case in the Nasdaq. It was that 69.15 level in the S&P. The way I'm looking at this is it doesn't automatically say short it, but it does say that if we're going to continue. So now what I want you to look at here, Zach, is when we get up here, right, to 25,100 the first time, look at the volume on the bottom of my charts here, right, right to my right. You see how all of that is lower than the average? In order for us to continue to move, we have to get consistently above that average, right? And we didn't really do that consistently above the average. And on a 3 minute, I'm looking for something 4 to 5,000 or more in a 3 minute period consistently. And if we don't get that, I'm just looking at this as chop, right? So we had decent flow early, right? Fluid price action. When you get volume, above the average, you're going to get fluid price action. But as soon as that drops, it starts to chop around. This is like, I almost look at it as like trading silver right now. Talked about how silver is trading on such low volume on a daily. It's just, can it continue to move? It can. To me, it just starts to feel random because there are less people trading it. So yeah, that's what we're seeing there. I'll try to point out more of those examples as we continue to go forward. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach Paul?
No, someone had a question for you. How do you get that volume in a separate pane?
This one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So on the left side here, for all your indicators, if you hover over the indicator and you see these three dots here, you can say move to, and you probably have it this way where it's on your chart pane, right? So now it's hovering over like that. No one wants to see that, right? So you're gonna hover over this, click the three dots, go to move to new pane below, and then it'll create its own pane there. All right, got a couple more questions here. Neil, we'll try to get to that breakdown of the strategy. You start with a small position and scale in because sometimes pullbacks can be scary. It depends on the trade, really. When I was trading the S&P today, later in the session, I was just trading a one lot. It wasn't. I didn't see the cleanest trade setups, and I was taking these trades from my phone. So I was just trading a one lot, risking the high of the day. It really depends on the setup. Sometimes I will start with a smaller position. Sometimes I'll, depending on what the market says, I may put on all the risk up front. There's still, and we were talking about this on fast markets, right? How much of your trading should be mechanical? How much of it is discretionary? There's a fine balance, I think, a lot of times with the execution. As long as I'm understanding the risk of the trade, position sizing, and where I'm putting on the risk, that is where there's a lot of discretion trading. But it's going to depend on the setup.
All right.
Let's take yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to gold. What just happened here?
You froze.
Am I frozen? Come on, there we go. All right, gold. Let's take a look at gold on the daily. 50%.
And the moves look so much more dramatic intraday, but
They
we're
do.
still in a holding pattern. That, like you said, the bigger like we talked, the bigger the spike, the longer the tail. So in other words, time and price have to balance. All right, it's going to go into the summer in this range.
Yeah.
Using that
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean by no means does it mean it has to happen, but that's the measure.
Yeah, absolutely. That 50%, again, we're measuring the 3-day pullback, or can you call this a pullback? 3-day implosion of the metal markets. Why are we measuring 3 days? Because that was consistent selling over a 3-day period. You could measure the one big price action day, but then the day prior to that was more volume. Again, a little bit of discretion in your trading. I like the 3-day pullback. We see VWAP from the first day, which was the highest volume, a flat line pretty much right at that 50-25 area, 50-13s. Daily ATR in gold still 192 points. We are starting to remove some of the restrictions, so check your email on that. Opening up the micro gold positions and the position size. The big gold contract, silver, micro silver is still restricted there. Copper's opening up a little bit as well as we see some of the volatility start to slow down. But we're saying volatility slow down. Today's high to low range in gold was 160 points. The daily ATR before this aggressive sell off was 120, 130. So, these are still huge moves. It's just compared to, again, this implosion, it looks small, but these are far from small moves here in gold. Let's take a look at last night's open. Here it is on the 30. Get that 200 moving average up there. What are we seeing here?
Oh, a beautiful buy. Now, initially, it was not easy. What did we do? We had a first half hour, we had selling. We held the previous day's low. We wicked once again. But that doesn't mean, but as we get more information, we hold that in an hour and 2 hours later, we're above VWAP and breaking out. Session VWAP is ticking up, indicating there's buying
And what is
off.
what is the
Go
most
ahead.
important time in the metals? What has been the most important time in the metals that we've seen? Maybe it was quiet for a couple of days, but can't keep them quiet for too long.
Yeah, even
That
in New Year's celebrations.
right, right. Hey, business is business.
This is
Somebody has to pay for those celebrations. The Shanghai Metal Open, this purple box here, they really killed silver. Yeah, this purple box here is the Shanghai Metals Open, 8 p.m. Eastern time for now until we get daylight savings time. But if you look at that point, Coach Paul, this
that
was a
was
hell of a trend.
urgency.
Yeah, urgency on the 30-minute. If you're a new viewer and you're wondering what we say when we wondering what we're talking about when we say urgency, we define a range, and urgency is relative. In this case, we're looking at a 30-minute chart. 30-minute chart, and within two candles, we have price and volume leaving that range to the upside. That has the potential, and we'll say potential, to be the trend for the rest of the day. Now, how do you execute this trade? Where do you get in? Um, you know, where's your risk go? You could probably get in somewhere around the close of that third candle. This is a ton of risk still. Again, these look like small moves, but this is a $30 risk in gold. Uh, that's why we are still limiting trading to micros. There's more than enough opportunity, and I did this backwards. To be other one. There's more than enough opportunity in these markets, but you don't need to trade a ton of size to do it, right? If it's a clean move, uh, you can definitely take advantage of it. Let's take a look at the 3-minute. I am curious what the 3-minute looked like on the Shanghai Open. Oh my gosh. Where was that? Was I on slow market? No, I was not on slow markets last night. You can limit your risk by going with a shorter time frame, right? We just took a $30 risk down to about $15 and just a really beautiful trade here. Chad PM says hindsight 2020. Yeah, I mean, it is. How do you know where a market is going to go? What's the best way to know where a market's going to go, Coach Paul?
The best way is not to predict, is to use flow, read the
Yeah,
flow. Another
right.
thing, we do this, we've been doing this, what, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Is the hindsight, we're reviewing, trying to find patterns that are
Hmm.
repeatable. And they don't all work, but at one point, to find an edge, you have to what?
Define an
Go
edge.
back to, yeah, you have to back test.
Yeah.
You have to find a repeatable pattern. So
Yeah.
you are correct. I will
Yeah.
tell you this, hindsight is the wisdom of fools, but we're back testing. All right, this is a review. We
Hmm.
find this pattern based on price and time.
Yeah, and the best way to know where a chart was going to go is to let it happen. But unfortunately, there's no way to make money from that. There might be some way to make money from that. Uh,
Well, that's
whether you morally want to make money from that is the question. But I mean, we're talking about trade strategy, right? We're talking about preseason. I just don't see it for predicting that move until you're chasing. Chad, I could not disagree with you more, my friend. I don't know if this is Chad. You've been here before. You've joined at the buzzer before. The prediction comes from, and I see what you're saying, right? I don't see it for predicting that move. I don't even want to pretend that I predicted this move in gold. It's not my job. And if anyone tells you that they predicted this move in gold and traded it, they're probably lying to you, right? But what you can do, and I think there was a way to maybe predict that this was going to go this way, right? Because once it started a really strong trend, 8 months on Top Step TV, yeah, and this is not your first time here, right? But our goal is not to try to predict that move. Because when the prediction is wrong, then we have this existential crisis of, oh my gosh, I need to change everything. I'm the worst trader ever. We don't want to do that, right? What we want to try to predict is something we can do repeatedly, right? If I'm not the quarterback that can throw, you know, 40 yards down the field and 50 yards down the field, I got to throw a check down and that's the way I win games, then guess what? I got to throw the check down. I'm not trying to predict this move. And again, there is a way to do it because where was the high of the day? Pretty close to that 50% area, right? We've seen how many days the market has tested that, but we say it all the time. Just because you have an idea of where the market can go for the day, it may not mean that you can make money from it, right? But one of the things we do know is if I frame out a session open, and this is the way I look at the markets. This is the way Coach Paul looks at the markets, right? It's kind of the system we built together. Uh, if I frame out the session open, attach a VWAP to it, and it leaves urgently, it has the potential to be the trend. No, and Chad, no, it's so don't worry about your comment being distracted. I'm not even actually upset about this at all. I think this is a really important conversation. So, hey, thank you for bringing it up. It's a
I
extremely
couldn't
important
agree
conversation.
more.
Yeah,
It's
like, hey, I don't take offense to anything unless people talk shit, right? You were not talking shit, right? You were legitimately saying, yeah, in hindsight, that's such a clear move. How do we get to that point? It's to me, it's reverse engineering the move, right? Reverse engineering it. If I see a trending day happen 1,000 times and I can define potential, right? Coach Paul, you coach basketball players. You might coach a basketball player that's 6 years old, and you look at him, you're like, hey, that kid has the potential to be something special. They move a little different, right? They understand the game a little differently. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to pan out. And what happens is everyone tries to look at the 6 year old and say, oh, that kid's going to make the league, right? Just like looking at a chart and saying, oh, this is going to be the one that moves 1,000 points. You don't know that, right? There are too many things that have to happen between the identification of potential and the end result. There's way too many things that have to happen to say for sure that that's going to be the thing that happens, and that's why you can't over leverage, right? So, but when you look at something that says, "Hey, that looks like something I've seen before," that ultimately ends up being the trend, then you can trade based on that. Now, it how do you manage it, right? One of the things that we talk about all the time here, Coach Paul, is 2-to-1s are great for day trades. Why do you say that, Coach Paul?
because they're reasonable. They're within it. I had to adjust. I was a swing trader
Yeah,
and I still swing trade in it, but it was hard for me
yeah,
because I'm putting something on with a larger um, time frame, and I don't watch it. I let it go. I put the stop in, and it's far away. But the principle is this: I in a day time frame, you have a compressed amount of time. So it's reasonable to look for a 2-to-1
yep,
on especially in a 3 minute, 5 minute time frame. And when we talked about this last week, sometimes we look at a runner like,
yeah.
oh, why'd I get out? Ah, but
Not what you measured for.
it's not what you measured for. And let me tell you, I love those trades too. but it's almost inhuman because you see the result of the big move,
Yeah.
but you have to suffer through 80% of failure to scratch.
You have to suffer through a $30 pullback on the way to the target.
And I'm not saying you can't do that. Don't get
Right.
me wrong, but over time, the 2 to 1 is in a reasonable position. If let's say it's 50-50, it's true random, and your result, but your losers are half of what your winners are. It's a very positive skew. All right. So yeah, 2 to 1s. I always look for 4 or 5 to 1. But in
And
the day time frame, how often does that happen? And it does happen. The key is this: you're going to suffer through a lot of losses, and unless you really, really believe and trust and know that plan, it's going to be hard to follow
yeah.
because you could go through 7 losses in a row,
Yep.
literally or more, and go, "Fuck this! It's wrong." And then the eighth one, it explodes, and then it leads you off the path.
Yeah.
So 2 to 1 is what I say reasonable. It's achievable. It's and I'll look for 2 to 1 in different markets,
Yep.
but it's another discussion.
Yeah.
2 to 1 risk reward is very achievable, and you're done
100%.
too.
Yeah, there are so few times that I've caught a move like this, and there are times where you catch them, but you catch it with a runner, maybe 10% of the position, just because you go with the idea of, hey, this could stop me out for 0 or, go to the end of the day. What I don't want to, you know, make it seem like we're saying is that I'm catching this or any part of 90 to 80 to 90% of this move with a full position on. I'm not that trader, right? I'm probably going to, again, put the risk on earlier. And Neil, you were talking about, to summarize the trade that we're talking about here, opening range breakout trade with volume. That's all we're looking at here, right? So here's that Shanghai opening range on a 3 minute. Give volume, price and volume to leave that range to the upside. Wasn't super definitive. It took a little while, right? This is, we're hindsight doing this, which is fine. But this took 50 minutes before it really started to break out and choose a direction. But you can see that opening range didn't make another low after that price and volume left to the upside. So I'm getting long up here. Risk goes on the other side, and then looking for about a 2 to 1 from there. That is, you know, an A plus setup for me when it sets up this way. This was probably more like a B plus just because of how long it took for volume to leave that range. But that's what I'm looking for every day. Now, Coach Hoop just said it in the chat to someone else that asked. Take what we're saying here not as a definitive way to trade, but context for the markets. There are going to be times where if you look for this trade every day, it's going to look like something, and then it's going to be the shittiest trade that you could take for the day because no one has 100% hit rate. Last Friday in the equities, Coach Paul, remember that?
Huh.
It looked like it was going to go to
Distinctly.
0, and then it just turned
Yep.
around right away.
Yep.
Yeah, so here we go.
I,
Here's the
I,
Nasdaq. That
I
same
lost
trade.
money that day.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to go, but then it didn't. It turned around, right? So know your trading strategy enough to trust it even when it doesn't work after a couple times, right? Or to trust it and say, hey, I put on a trade because I thought that one thing was happening, but then another thing is happening. That's no longer the same trade. You're doing something right when you put on a trade and you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, because you don't. That's a great comment.
Yeah,
I had to go through years of a mantra. I don't know, which led to accepting good losses. I tell the story. There was a great trading group on the board of trade floor in the bond pit, and they were trained by an older gentleman who was a successful trader, farmer, gentleman, quietly a large trader. But he trained them, And it was a few years later, I knew some of these traders and we were talking, and he goes, "Well, our mantra is love your losers." I don't know. I'd never heard of it. Who tells you these things? And
Yeah.
my first response started with a Y and it ended with a U. I was like, "Come on, love my losers."
Yeah.
Here, take my losers, adopt
Right.
them, love them, because I can't
Can't do it.
I can't do it. So going back to that is when you're measuring and you're trading a plan, you don't know. So you measure expectations. That's when I talk about planning a trade, finding the edge, position sizing it correctly, then letting it happen where you get to a point, put the trade on, bracket it, and walk away, come back 10 minutes later.
Yep. Yeah. Uh, a bad green day is worse than a red day. Yeah, I agree. Let's take a look at crude oil here. Shout out to Neil in the chat. Says, you guys are great. A few months back, couldn't see myself making any good trades. Now making consistent trades on MCL, slower, cleaner setups. You know the coolest thing about that, Neil? Coach Paul and I are normally not on Topstep TV much trading, right? Most of our time on Topstep TV is when the markets are not doing anything. So what that means is you've taken the information that you've learned here and applied it to actual moving markets, which again, I will say it all the time. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. So shout out to you for executing what you've seen. Rollover is over. Rollover is done, Coach Paul, in crude oil. And Juice, I saw your question, so I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. One
Rollovers
thing on
over.
that,
Yeah, go ahead.
rollover is almost always there for me.
It is.
It
It is.
expires monthly.
Right.
But it was interesting because we talked about crude yesterday. There was an inflection point. We specifically talked about that. It's got to find some buying. Boy, did it. And that was best trade of the day. We talk about an opening range breakout.
Man, what a trade. Shout out to the house account. Got long 63.80. And we'll take a look at that opening range trade as well. The buying in crude started early. Buying in crude started last night. We'll take a look at the 30-minute real quick here. Here is the 30-minute. Again, that white line on my chart is a 200 moving average. On the 30-minute is, to me, the most important time frame to look at it. Got to thank Coach Paul for that one. We started early, Coach Paul. Normally, crude oil doesn't trade too much in the Globex Asia session, but here's that Globex open. Took a
And
little while to leave. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it took a little while to leave that. And you're right. And it was very curious because we opened up flat, like you said.
Yeah,
We were we were in an ant's range. What was the range? Like 15 cents?
about that. Yeah, 18 cents
18
here.
cents.
Yeah,
So after that huge break yesterday, one of the just truly we didn't, like there's no follow through. Number one, right? It's in other words, we're in balance. But that's why I really start watching that date session VWAP.
yeah,
Even before it left the range, it started ticking up. Now, I did not expect it to rally past yesterday's high. Again, I didn't predict it.
yeah,
But even on a 2-to-1 trade, it's a winner. I could go back and go, son of a gun. I shouldn't
yeah,
have got out of that.
yeah,
Once
yeah,
again, uh, it's what I measured for.
yeah. How do you know that this is going to happen in crude oil? You know, we did get more volume back above the average. This low volume, I'm kind of attributing that to maybe some rollover effects here. And on a higher time frame, this market is still holding VWAP from the low of the year
On a J trade.
on a J. This is going to be
That was
relevant
it.
until it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. That was So let's look at the opening last night against that J trade of the year.
Let's see. We might have to do it on a 30. There we go.
Yeah,
We're above it. We didn't even test it. Man, I would keep
yeah.
that on my charts.
Wow.
I would keep that on my
And
charts.
so next thing to look for, and we know this is passing the tech in commodities. Goes from Asia Open, specifically Australia, is the first. That's Globex Open
Mm.
to Shanghai at 7 Central, Tokyo, Shanghai. But the most to me, the next most important Open is London. So
London Open, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. That is this candle right here, which you would have got stopped. Okay, so here's the thing, right? If you were trading London Open, 2 to 1s are great for day trades, right, Coach Paul?
yep,
So if I got long, because we got urgency, this is a 1 minute chart. We got urgency on the 1 minute. Price and volume leave that range to the upside, right? It's all relative. Maybe I'm getting long somewhere here. Risk goes on the other side. I'm risking 10 ticks in gold and crude oil, not the biggest trade. Didn't get a 2 to 1, got a 1.82 to 1 at this high. That's close enough. It's a good trade, right? If you, depending on where your risk goes, maybe you get stopped out of this looking for more because again, we don't know what's going to happen or how the market's going to get there. Even if you had a target for $65, if you're holding on for deal life and this is where your risk goes, probably get stopped out on this trade before it goes in your favor. Now, is 10 ticks enough risk in crude oil? Probably not, right? You could maybe give it a little bit more space, but you had the market give you some favorable price action, but then turn around and come back. Now, in this case, it wasn't an aggressive stop out. Maybe you don't set your stops right at the low of the day, but that's an example of where you could have gotten the trade right and gotten stopped out of it.
whoa, whoa, whoa. What do I see at the bottom of that chart? Just over your lips. What is that?
This here, that is high volume. We're on a 1 minute. We don't normally look at 1 minutes, but we'll look at it.
What's it?
1 minute candle here. Wasn't at the low of the day, but a
No,
little
that
volume
was
spike there. Ton of volume. 936 contracts in a minute in the middle of extreme low volume.
now the next highest volume, which what about 20 minutes later, was
This one here.
buying.
Yeah.
Yeah, above session VWAP.
Yeah.
So it's like two ships passing in the night. It was like the first selling. What did they get out of that?
Nothing.
Now the next highest volume, and this is a 1 minute. Wow,
Yeah.
there, there was some action going on in London.
There was a lot going. Someone said crude oil has the potential to be the market of 2026. Uh, you were not a liar, my friend. You're not a liar. This has been some very clean price action. Another one, high volume. We close above it. Doesn't necessarily happen at the lows, but we held it. Sellers were not getting anything for this.
No,
Sellers were getting nothing for it. And then here we go with the trade that the house account took, where some people might look at this, Coach Paul, and say, at this point, I'm late to the move. Can't buy crude oil. It's already up $1.50. That's a daily ATR move. Sometimes you get anomaly days, though. And I think framing where your day starts, and we just talked about this trade, right? So whoever was asking for the A+ setup, I'm going to ask you, how many times have we seen this exact setup today in multiple markets? Session open, attach a VWAP to it. This is the 1 minute opening range in crude oil. We did switch time frames on a couple of the markets, but the way the house account takes that opening range trade in crude is on a 1 minute, waiting for a candle close outside that range. Price and volume, which is this VWAP attached to the open, leave the range to the upside. Took a little while, but that ended up being the trade for the day. So back to that conversation we were having with Chad, how do you know? Hindsight is 2020. It is. But if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it's just a baby duck, we might just have to let it mature.
for dinner.
It's man,
I
that took a turn.
That's a good nasty term, but I love duck. If you
Yeah,
ever
it's great. It's great. Yeah. But yeah, there you have it, right? I sold it at the $3 ATR. Daily was $2, so it can't keep going. Yeah, I mean, so Coach Hoop, that's not a bad idea, right? I mean, daily ATR is $2. We hit $2 here, and then you sold it at 3. Not a bad idea, right? Like, okay, this market is a little bit extended. You're not just selling it because it's going higher, but it can keep going higher, right? Uh, John Wick, we said duck, the animal. The internet,
hey,
Coach Paul, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful on the internet.
I'm sorry.
But uh, really, really, really nice trade here. Why the 3 minute opening range rather than the 5 or the 15? MKRI, just a preference thing. The charts I look at every day, daily, 30 minute and 3 minute. I just like the 3 minute time frame. It all of the stuff that I look at as far as volume and stuff like that goes, it just I could have probably done the same thing with a 7 minute chart. I don't know that it truly makes a difference. It's just where I've developed my trading system on what I've developed my trading system on, and I've been doing it so long that I don't really care to look at anything else, to be honest. I don't know if I have a better answer than that. It's I'm just a creature of habit, and we say it all the time. You're talking about anything from 10 minutes down, they're all kind of the same, right? So just pick one because you're going to get different. If you try to switch between very short time frames, you're going to get a different answer every time. So if you hear me talk about the 3 and you use a 5, we're talking about the same thing. Uh,
You could show it on a five.
yeah, we could look at it on a 5. Why not?
I tell you, 3 and 5 are very, very, very similar. I think the
Yep.
3 gives it a little earlier signal.
Yeah. Here it is on the 5. We didn't get that same urgency on the 5, right? It took a little longer for and we saw this on the 1 minute as well, right? Where it wasn't like super aggressive right off of that open. But very similar trade here. It's going to adjust your risk and your entries just a little bit, but it's all once the market starts moving, it's all the same. It is all the same. Uh, keep an eye on crude. Keep an eye on crude. JD's asking, do I swing trade crude oil? Unfortunately, I said I was going to, and I never put the trade on. But I know what I will do. We get a pullback back to that low of year VWAP. Might assume some risk there. Uh, we'll see. Hopefully, it doesn't break out of this flagging pattern before that. And again, that is not financial advice. That is just me looking at the markets. Let's get to some questions here. Neil, what time is the Shanghai Open? 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. For now, that is going to change with daylight savings time. We'll keep you up to date when that happens. We'll see it in the volume. Markets are going to move. There was a question from Juice Trading. Coach Paul, I want to get your opinion on this. How do you walk away when you're green or red? I'm having a difficulty with stopping. Following the plan I set because I know I can make it back or more. The concept of money is the concept of money getting to me. How do you walk away when you're either green or red on the day?
Don't watch your P&L. When I say to execute a plan, I really that's because I know exactly where you're coming from. Two things: measuring your risk and accepting it. This is part of the learning process. In the front of your mind, you don't want. It seems to me, I know I went through this. Is I don't want to take a loss.
Yeah.
It's a process. So one of the things I think you have to really meditate on is winning trades or losing trades at as part of that process. It's random. You don't know where it's going to start. But it's over a series of trades. So in any particular day, that's why we have the most, like your daily loss limit. If you're sized right, All right. Not too big, not too small. You're setting that, that's part of it. Then you can be comfortable in putting on trades and going. There's going to be Friday was one of them for me. I came close. Just those days happen.
Yeah, they do.
But and any fool can know. Made a great comment on that.
Mhm.
Attachment and uncertainty are so interesting for the mind to cope with. That's exactly it's that uncertainty. So to help dull that uncertainty and anxiety is accepting that's why one thing I go on day trading, I go 2 to 1. Is reasonable expectation.
Yep. You can
It
measure for it.
helps you can measure for it. So look at that. Don't look at green and red. I would almost suggest make it gray and gray.
That's what mine is. I was just showing the settings up here. You can change that in Topstep X. You go to the settings gear over here. You go to miscellaneous. Your realized P&L, negative color, whatever it is. The code here is 30 30 30. And this run that I had in this XFA of getting this to a live account, do you know whether or not you're winning on the day? Yes, but it is just anything to get you an advantage in trading. This entire run, you know, there was never a green or red at the top of the screen. And I can't say that that is the reason we had the run, but I know it didn't hurt. So,
All right.
yeah,
Um, I've got to run. We're past time.
we are past time here. We are. There was one more question that I wanted to get to, but we'll go ahead and end it there. Uh, Thanks everyone for joining. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. We appreciate you all being here and couldn't do these shows without you. Chad, again, thanks for bringing up that point because it was a really important one to talk about. It's what we deal with every day as traders. Coach Paul, anything you want to say before we head out of here?
Plan your trade your plan, and you'll find some consistency.
Awesome stuff. We got coaches doing classes in Discord after this. Coach Hoop coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Coach Ray at 7. Coach Vince at 8. Coach Dakota tonight with slow markets at 8:30. I'm going to Mexico, everybody, so I am not going to see you guys on Top Step TV for the next 2 days. We'll figure out. I think we may have a replacement for At the Buzzer over the next 2 days, but trade well the rest of the week. I will see you all back here on Monday. But trade well out there, like Coach Paul says. Have a plan, trade that plan, manage your risk, and we will see you all soon.
Adios, coach. Have a good trip.
Adios. Bye.